What if enlightenment wasn't found on a mountaintop or in a monastery, but in the simple act of washing a bowl? What if peace isn't something we reach one day when life finally settles down, but something quietly available in the way we fold a blanket, sip a cup of tea, or listen to someone speak? Zen doesn't ask us to escape the world. It invites us to return to it, fully, intimately, without distraction. It points to the present moment, not as a stepping stone, but as the destination itself. We often rush through our days on autopilot, lost in plans, regrets, and a constant hum of urgency. But underneath all the doing is a stillness that never moves, waiting patiently to be noticed. This isn't about slowing time. It's about arriving in time. It's about seeing the extraordinary in what once seemed ordinary. Because maybe, just maybe, brushing your teeth, making your bed, or walking to the kitchen isn't a distraction from the path. Maybe it is the path. Mindfulness in daily life. Zen means, when eating, just eat. When walking, just walk. Every moment is practice. A student once asked his Zen master, "What is your secret to peace?" The master replied, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sleep, I sleep." The student, puzzled, said, "But that's what everyone does." The master smiled. "No. When most people eat, they're thinking about walking. When they walk, they're thinking about sleeping. And when they sleep, their minds are still chasing unfinished conversations and to-do lists. They are never truly where they are." In Zen, mindfulness isn't a special state reserved for meditation cushions or temples. It's a way of meeting each moment with full attention, whether you're drinking tea or sweeping the floor. It's not about making life slower or quieter. It's about showing up completely for the life you already have. Most of us live in fragments. Our bodies are in one place, our minds in another. We reply to a message while eating lunch, think about errands during a conversation, and plan tomorrow while brushing our teeth. The result? A sense of dullness, restlessness, and disconnection, even when nothing is wrong. But what if you could return? Return to the warmth of the water as you wash your hands, to the rhythm of your breath while walking, to the weight of your body resting in a chair. No need to fix anything. No need to change the world. Just meet what is here, as it is. Zen teaches that awakening isn't somewhere else. It's in the rice you cook, in the dishes you wash, in the shoes you place neatly by the door. These aren't distractions from your practice. They are your practice. When we bring our full attention to ordinary moments, they become luminous. The line between sacred and mundane dissolves. Life no longer feels like something to get through. It becomes something to truly live. One breath, one step, one task. This is where peace waits. Not later, now. Compassion through deep understanding. When we realize that others' suffering is not separate from our own, compassion arises naturally. A young monk once approached his teacher, frustrated. "Master," he said, "I want to be more compassionate, but I still judge others. I still get irritated. I don't feel kind at all." The master nodded slowly, then asked, "Do you think the wind judges the trees it touches? Does the sun shine more kindly on the flower than the weed?" In Zen, compassion is not something we force. It's not a virtue we strain to perform. It is what naturally arises when we see clearly, when we realize that we are not separate from others, that their suffering and ours are made of the same fabric. Often, we think of compassion as something we give, as if we are reaching down to someone who has fallen. But Zen invites us to look more deeply. When you feel the pain of another, is it not your own heart that aches? And when you truly listen to someone's sorrow, doesn't something soften inside you too? This is not pity. It is not charity. It is recognition. When we let go of the illusion of a solid, separate self, we begin to understand that the line between me and you is thinner than we imagined. Your joy touches mine. Your fear echoes mine. Your longing, your hope, your grief, I've known them too. Compassion doesn't require dramatic gestures. It lives in small, sincere moments, sitting with a friend in silence, offering presence instead of solutions, forgiving someone without needing to be right. Sometimes, the most compassionate thing we can do is simply stay. Stay when someone is hurting. Stay when the easy thing would be to look away. Stay not to fix, but to witness, fully, quietly, without judgment. And this same kindness must extend inward. To the parts of yourself you'd rather hide. The anger, the jealousy, the fear, they too are visitors in need of understanding. As we soften toward ourselves, we soften toward others. And in this softening, compassion ceases to be something we do. It becomes who we are when we are truly awake. No striving, no performance. Just the heart, open. Ethics through presence, not rules. Actions arise from clarity, not rigidity. Do what is needed in the moment with full awareness. Two monks were walking along a muddy path after a heavy rain when they came upon a young woman in a fine silk kimono, unable to cross a large puddle. Without hesitation, the older monk lifted her up and carried her across. The two monks continued on in silence. Hours later, the younger monk couldn't contain himself. "We're monks," he said. "Like we're not supposed to touch women, especially not like that." The elder monk replied calmly, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" In Zen, ethics are not about rigid rules written in stone. They arise from awareness, from seeing clearly what each moment requires. When we act from presence rather than from fear, habit, or ideology, our actions tend to be wise, natural, and compassionate. The younger monk clung to the rule. The older monk embodied the spirit. We live in a world obsessed with should and shouldn't, often mistaking obedience for morality. But true ethics are not born from obedience. They are born from intimacy with life, from being so fully present that we respond, not react, from sensing what is needed here, now, with this person, in this situation. Zen doesn't ask us to abandon discernment. It simply asks us to pay attention before we act, to look beneath the surface of rules and appearances and connect with the living truth of what's unfolding. Presence brings clarity, and with clarity comes natural responsibility. When you are deeply awake, you don't need a rule to know that kindness is right. You feel it. When your heart is open, you don't need to memorize guidelines on how to treat others. Your very presence becomes your guide. Ethics in Zen is less about following a map and more about learning to walk with awareness, step by step, breath by breath. And when we make mistakes, because we will, we don't punish ourselves. We bow, learn, and begin again, not out of guilt, but out of care. Wisdom in not knowing. Beginner's mind opens the door to insight, creativity, and learning. A university professor once visited a Zen master, eager to learn. As they sat, the master began pouring tea into the professor's cup. He poured until the cup was full, and then kept pouring. The tea spilled over the rim and onto the table. "Stop!" The professor exclaimed, "It's full. No more will go in." The master set down the pot and said, "Exactly. Like this cup, your mind is full of your own opinions and assumptions. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" In Zen, wisdom begins not with answers, but with space. We live in a world that rewards certainty, knowing what to say, what to do, who to be. But Zen whispers a different truth. Not knowing is where true understanding begins. It's the soft, quiet place before judgment, before labels, before the mind rushes in to explain. Beginner's mind is not ignorance. It's a form of humility, a willingness to meet each moment fresh, without dragging yesterday's conclusions into today's encounter. When we don't presume to already know, we actually begin to see. Not knowing creates room for curiosity, for discovery, for genuine listening. It allows us to ask, "What is this?" instead of assuming, "I already understand." It's in the spirit of not knowing that a flower becomes radiant again, a conversation becomes alive, and even something as ordinary as washing your hands becomes a gateway to presence. This doesn't mean we abandon knowledge or insight. It means we hold it lightly. We recognize that even our most trusted beliefs are provisional, like signposts, not destinations. And in our relationships, not knowing invites kindness. How often do we assume we already know who someone is, what they think, how they'll respond, why they do what they do? But what happens when we pause, take a breath, and meet them again as if for the first time? Something softens, something opens. Zen invites us to become beginners again and again, not to regress, but to return. To return to the place where life is not a problem to solve, but a mystery to touch. Sometimes the most honest answer is, "I don't know." And in that moment, we might just glimpse the wisdom that lives beyond words. Transforming life through attention. The quality of your life mirrors the quality of your attention. Even washing dishes becomes sacred when done mindfully. A monk once asked his teacher, "What is the most important thing in Zen practice?" The teacher replied, "Attention." The monk, puzzled, asked again, "Yes, but what is truly the most important thing?" The teacher looked at him deeply and said, "Attention means attention." In a world of constant distraction, this teaching cuts like a bell through fog. Our days are filled with split seconds and half-presences, scrolling while eating, thinking while walking, speaking while already planning our reply. We move fast, but we miss so much. Zen reminds us that attention is not just a practice. It is our life itself. Whatever we give our attention to, we give our life to. A meal eaten in mindfulness becomes nourishment for the soul. A conversation held with full presence becomes a refuge of understanding. Even a moment of silence, noticed and allowed, becomes a gateway to peace. This is not about adding something spiritual on top of ordinary life. It's about realizing that ordinary life is the spiritual path, when met with attention. To brush your teeth while truly brushing, to fold laundry with care, to listen to the sound of water filling a kettle, not to hurry, but to listen. These are not trivial moments. They are sacred when fully inhabited. What transforms life is not what we do, but how we do it. The smallest act, when done with full presence, becomes luminous. A cup placed gently on a table, a bow before sitting down, the pause before speaking. Each gesture becomes a kind of prayer. Attention is not effort. It is intimacy. It is the quiet, patient turning toward what is already here. And when your mind wanders, because it will, the practice is simple. Return. No judgment. No guilt. Just come back to this moment, again and again, as if it were the first and last moment of your life. Because in some mysterious way, it always is. What if the peace you've been searching for isn't missing? You've just been looking past it. In each quiet gesture, each ordinary task, Zen reveals a hidden doorway. Not to another world, but to this one, seen clearly, felt fully, lived deeply. The cup of tea, the footstep, the stillness between thoughts. None of them are obstacles on the path. They are the path. Mindfulness in Zen is not a technique. It's a way of being, a way of remembering that this breath, this moment, this encounter is enough. When we live with attention, the world changes. Not because the world itself becomes different, but because we are finally here to meet it, fully, gently, without rushing past. We begin to see that there is no such thing as a small moment. There is only life, raw, sacred, fleeting, waiting to be touched by our presence. So walk slowly, hold things lightly, and let every act, no matter how simple, become a mirror of your awakening.